But before I talk about Luke, though, if you're taking notes, make like three oblong circles that overlap, kind of a squished Venn diagram. Probably the first time you used a Venn diagram since you were in junior high school. They are helpful. The first circle, first oblong circle, use your imagination. First oblong circle is the age of Jesus, the 2.5 to 3 years of Jesus' ministry. We wouldn't know it was 3 years if we didn't have John. Thank you, John. We would think if we just had the synoptics, we'd think it was maybe 6 months long. So first circle is the circle of Jesus' ministry. The second circle, which overlaps, is roughly the kind of the Pauline period, the early church period. And then the third circle, which will overlap the end of that circle, is what I call the age of the Gospels. The New Testament's sort of out of order, right? The Gospels weren't written first. Paul's letters were written first. But at the end of that Pauline period, and this will bring us to Luke, at the end of that Pauline period, you have this concern in the church for eyewitness testimony. Eusebius tells us that the members of the early church began to become concerned that the witnesses of Jesus, the people that actually heard him and seen him, were getting pretty thin on the ground. And we know, for instance, one of the reasons the Gospel of Mark was written is the church came to Mark, who was a disciple of Peter, and they said, please write down Peter's story of Jesus. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. But what you see is this concern for eyewitness testimony. And Luke opens his Gospels by telling us, I'm not an eyewitness. I spoke to eyewitnesses. And one of the fun things when you're reading Luke tonight is to try to determine whatever story you're reading, where to get that from. So when you read the Nativity in Luke, and he knows what Mary's thinking and feeling, and only Luke tells us the story of Jesus 12 years old in the temple, and Mary does all the talking. Joseph does not open his mouth. I think he was afraid he might say something that would end up in the Bible that he probably shouldn't say. I mean, they're given the task of raising the Messiah, and they lose him for 3 days. Right. But I think Luke spoke to Mary. Mary was in Ephesus, and we believe that Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke in Ephesus. So how about that? The account of the Nativity in Luke is Mary's account.